The sound of laughter hit me before the sight did. I dropped my purse on the entry table and followed the noise. My name is Mia Alvarez. I'm 32, a nurse, and apparently still the family disappointment, at least in my mother's eyes. The sound of laughter hit me before the sight did. I dropped my purse on the entry table and followed the noise, my mother's voice, my sister's shrill giggle, the cartoon blaring on TV. And then, from the hallway, the sound of scrubbing. My daughter, 15, quiet, gentle, was on her knees with a sponge in her hand. The bathroom smelled of bleach, the air thick with humiliation. Her hair clung to her forehead, her sleeves rolled up, her small hands raw. My mother stood at the doorframe, arms crossed. "That's the only thing she's good for," she said coldly, not even noticing me yet. My sister smiled over her coffee cup. It took a second for my daughter to look up and see me. Her eyes widened, fear, guilt, confusion, like she was the one caught doing something wrong. My mother finally turned, her expression flickering for half a heartbeat. "Just teaching her discipline," she said, like cruelty was a virtue. I nodded once, said nothing, walked past them all, through the kitchen, out the back door into the cold night air. The stars blurred as I unlocked my phone and found the contact I'd hoped never to use again. It rang twice. Then a familiar voice said, "Detective Monroe." I took a breath. It's time. Detective Monroe didn't need context. She remembered me, the runaway daughter, who once called to report an abusive stepfather 20 years ago. Her tone shifted instantly. "Talk to me," she said. "It's my mother," I began, my throat tight. "And my sister. They've turned my home into what they once swore they'd protect me from." I told her everything, how I worked 12-hour shifts at the clinic while they helped out by staying with my daughter. How help slowly turned into control. My daughter wasn't allowed to rest after school. She cooked, cleaned, ironed. They called it raising her right. I called it conditioning. Detective Monroe stayed silent until I finished. "Are you ready to press charges if it comes to that?" she asked. My breath trembled. "I'm ready to do whatever it takes to stop the cycle." She promised to send a social worker for an unscheduled welfare visit the next day. "Don't confront them tonight. Keep everything normal. We'll document it." After the call, I sat in my car, staring at the bathroom window glowing faintly through the curtains. My daughter's shadow moved inside, small, fragile, obedient. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles ached. I had spent my life escaping my mother's control, only to see it reach the next generation. Not again. Not ever again. That night, I didn't sleep. I just planned. By noon the next day, the air inside the house was tight, the kind of stillness that only exists before a storm. My mother sat on the couch, arms crossed, the TV volume high. My sister scrolled on her phone, her kids running wild. My daughter stood in the kitchen doorway, drying her hands on a towel, her eyes darting between them like a trapped bird. Then came the knock. 3 firm raps. "Afternoon, ma'am. Savannah Department of Family Services. We received a wellness concern." My sister shot up, face pale. "What's this about?" The social worker, a woman named Mrs. Harlan, stepped in calmly, clipboard in hand. "Just routine follow-up." I leaned against the counter, heart steady. "Go ahead," I said softly. Mrs. Harlan's questions were polite, surgical. "Who lives here? Who's responsible for the child's care?" My mother's tone dripped with superiority. "I do. Her mother works too much, so we keep the girl disciplined. These kids today need structure." Mrs. Harlan nodded, taking notes. Then she turned to my daughter. "Sweetheart, can I see your hands?" My daughter hesitated, then slowly opened her palms. Red marks. Small, raw patches where bleach and scrubbing had burned her skin. The silence that followed was deafening. Mrs. Harlan's expression hardened. "Thank you. That'll be all for now." My mother's smugness faltered. My sister stammered, "It's just chores." But Mrs. Harlan had already turned toward me. "We'll be in touch," she said quietly. The first crack in their empire had formed, and it was beautiful. The next morning, I came home early from work to find my mother pacing the kitchen. The mask was slipping. "You called them, didn't you?" she hissed, eyes sharp, voice trembling with rage. My sister leaned against the counter, her tone dripping poison. "Do you know how humiliating that was? The neighbors saw that woman's car. You're ruining this family." I stared at them both, calm, collected. "Family?" I said. "You mean the kind that lets a 15-year-old scrub tile until her skin peels?" Mom's face flushed crimson. "You're ungrateful. After everything I've done for you." I cut her off.
No, Mom.
"After everything you did to me. You think I forgot? The chores until midnight? The bruises you called discipline?" She froze. The silence stretched. Even my sister went still. My daughter, who had been standing by the table, stepped back slowly, listening wide-eyed. "You raised me to fear you," I said, my voice trembling with both anger and release. "And I almost let you raise her the same way, but not anymore." I turned to my daughter. "Go upstairs, baby." She hesitated. "Are you sure?" "More than ever," I said. She left, and I looked back at my mother, the woman who once told me love and obedience were the same thing. "Tomorrow," I said coldly, "you'll get another visit. But this time, it won't be a social worker." For the first time, my mother looked afraid. The next visit wasn't polite. It came with badges. Detective Monroe arrived at 10 a.m. sharp, accompanied by a child welfare officer and a court representative. My mother tried to put on her Sunday smile, but her hands trembled as she opened the door. "Good morning, ma'am," Detective Monroe said evenly. "We're following up on a report regarding emotional and physical neglect of a minor. We'd like to ask a few questions." My sister jumped in, defensive. "This is ridiculous. My mom just keeps the girl in line. Kids these days need discipline." Detective Monroe raised an eyebrow. "With cleaning chemicals and no supervision?" The question hung in the air like smoke. My mother's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came. I stood behind them, silent, letting the truth breathe. My daughter peeked from the stairs. Her eyes met mine, and I gave a small nod. It was okay now. Mrs. Harlan, the welfare officer, stepped forward, holding photos, the raw patches on my daughter's hands, the cleaning supplies found in her room. "She's a child," Mrs. Harlan said firmly. "Not a maid." My sister's voice cracked. "You can't take her side over family." Detective Monroe turned to her. "We always take the side of the victim." When the officers asked me to sign the report confirming my statement, my pen didn't tremble once. For the first time in years, I wasn't the scared daughter in this house. I was the mother reclaiming it. By the evening, the house felt like a funeral. The investigators had left, but their words still lingered in the air. Official, unshakable, final. Protective oversight initiated. My sister stormed out first, dragging her kids and muttering about betrayal. "You'll regret this, Mia," she spat, slamming the door so hard the picture frames rattled. My mother didn't move. She sat in the dining chair, her hands clasped, staring at the table like it held the ruins of her power. The ticking clock was the only sound between us. "I did everything for you," she whispered finally. "And this is how you repay me?" I looked at her, really looked. For the first time, she seemed small. Not the towering woman who'd ruled my childhood, but an aging figure grasping at control that no longer existed. "No, Mom," I said quietly. "You did everything to me, and you were about to do it to her." Her eyes flicked toward the staircase, where my daughter now sat halfway down listening. My mother's lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. I turned to my daughter. "Pack your things. We're leaving tonight." She hesitated, then nodded. Relief washed over her face, the kind that comes when you realize the war is finally over. As we drove away from that house, I didn't cry. I didn't look back. Some goodbyes aren't meant to be sad. They're meant to be final. The first morning in our new apartment felt unreal. No shouting. No footsteps pacing outside our door. No orders barked across the house. Just sunlight spilling through thin curtains and the smell of pancakes, my daughter's attempt at our first peaceful breakfast. She hummed quietly as she cooked, and I stood there watching her. This young girl who had spent years walking on eggshells, finally smiling without fear. We didn't have much. 2 suitcases, a second-hand couch, a mattress on the floor. But what we did have was ours. I started my shifts at the clinic again, this time without guilt. The coworkers I'd pushed away began to notice the difference, the way I carried myself now. One nurse said, "You look lighter." And she was right. Weeks passed. Therapy sessions for my daughter helped her find her voice again. She began drawing, things she hadn't done in years. Her sketches were full of open skies, clean hands, and women with wings. One afternoon a letter came. From my mother. The handwriting shook. She apologized, said she didn't realize how deep her cruelty went. Said she was in therapy now. I read it once, folded it neatly, and placed it in a drawer. Forgiveness wasn't impossible. It just wasn't owed right now. That night, I stood by the window, watching my daughter sleep peacefully. For the first time in my life, silence didn't mean fear. It meant freedom. 3 months later, I stood outside the courthouse in Savannah, holding my daughter's hand. It wasn't a criminal trial, not this time. It was a custody hearing to determine visitation and legal protection. My mother and sister sat across the room, polished and performative, playing the victims they always pretended to be. When the judge, a calm, gray-haired woman, read through the reports, she barely looked up. Repeated emotional neglect, she said, flipping a page. Documented coercion. Endangerment through forced labor of a minor. Each word was a nail sealing the coffin of their power. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't tremble. "I'm not asking for revenge," I said softly. "I'm asking for peace, for my daughter's right to live without fear, without being treated like a servant in her own family." The judge nodded slowly. "Ms. Alvarez, the court commends your courage. Full custody is hereby granted. A restraining order will be issued for 6 months, with no unsupervised contact permitted." My daughter squeezed my hand so tightly, I thought my heart might burst. Outside, the sun felt different, warmer, real. She looked up at me and whispered, "Mom, are we safe now?" I smiled through the tears. "Yes, baby. We're finally safe." That night, I hung her drawings on our apartment wall. Women with wings, flying over oceans of light. And I realized freedom doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it comes quietly, in a clean room, a steady breath, and a girl who finally laughs again.